That was South Korean President Park Geun-hye speaking to CCTV's Shui Jun-yi. Now, Ralph Winnie joins us. He's Director of Global Business Development and Vice President of the Eurasia Business Coalition China Program at the Eurasia Center. He joins me on set. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Eugene, and that's there's a speculation that there's going to be a breakthrough in this discussion of trade between China and South Korea. Yeah. Is that fair that we have this expectation? I
think it is. You have President Xi going to be meeting with top executives from Samsung, LG, and Hyundai. You have about 12 agreements that are scheduled to be signed in a wide variety of industries. What's important is that South Korea has a trade surplus with China, roughly 60 billion, because of their exports of things like automobile parts, smartphones.
So look for deals in those areas. There has been, and this is the elephant in the room, a pretty big deal made about the fact that he's visiting South Korea first before Pyongyang.
Right.
Is that a fair? How do we read that?
Well, that's a very fair statement. I mean, certainly Korea and China have engaged. This will be the fifth meeting, but it's the first meeting that Xi Jinping is having in South Korea. So by traveling to South Korea first, before even meeting with Kim Jong-un, he's bucked tradition, and in some ways, people are saying that it's a slap in the face to Kim Jong-un and his regime.
What's the reaction you think from the South Korean officials? Are they going to use this as an opportunity to try to get some deals done? Because they've got an opening here of really accelerating that relationship going forward. They're going to try to, as you mentioned, with Samsung and all these other Korean organizations and sectors. Is this a big game changer for the two?
I definitely think it is. If you look at the May 30th announcement by the Chinese that they had successfully traded currency with South Korea, under a currency swap agreement, you had 400 million won that was successfully traded to support business investment. Certainly, it's a major deal. And what's going to happen is they're going to accelerate cross-border settlements for the RMB and the won, which could lead to be a successful model for regional integration in Northeast Asia.
And look, this is a big deal because China has been under some pressure. I mean, with its neighbors, there's been territorial disputes. There's been all kinds of little things that have been affected the political atmosphere in the area. If they can get a friend, a good friend in South Korea, that might make a difference, right?
Absolutely. I mean, already there's 270 billion in trade between China and South Korea. There's only been about 6 billion between China and North Korea, and that was in 2012. What we really have to worry about is North Korea's reaction. North Korea may feel that they're going to be isolated in Northeast Asia. And the key
well, I mean, they are isolated.
Right. But even more by the increased trade and economic relations between South Korea and China.
Now, there was a time when there was a discussion between China and Japan and South Korea about doing this big regional deal, if you will. What's going on with Japan?
Well, China and South Korea have ironically bonded because of their mutual distrust of Japan for several reasons. One is the Japanese lack of remorse involving their military past. If you look at the comfort women, that issue has never been resolved. And I hate to use the word comfort.
They didn't acknowledge a lot of the issues from World War II.
Right. I mean, these were women that were forced into sexual slavery and were brutalized, and most of them died. You also have the issue of Abe seeking to reinterpret their pacifist constitution and now wanting to engage as an active player in the region. And third, both South Korea and China have issues with Japan over islands like Senkaku and the Dodko Island.
Now, South Korea, of course, is an ally of the United States, but at the same time, they're going to be friends with China. So ultimately, might this relationship, might that ultimately benefit everybody if they can amend some of those differences? I mean, does it help move that conversation further along?
I think having the U.S. involved certainly will help. But a lot of it is going to depend on how much business South Korea and China can generate. And the South Koreans like the idea of trading with China. They're one of the few countries.
They want to trade with China, right? It's a huge market for them.
Absolutely. They're one of the few countries with a trade surplus.
And with Japan being on its heels, this is a huge opportunity for South Korea, and that's why we're seeing these big headlines from this big visit.
Right.
And of course, we'll continue to watch that.
Right.
Ralph, Winnie, it's good to see you again, Director of Global Business Development, Vice President, Eurasia Business of the China Program. Thank you very much
for having me.
Giving your insights.